Hello everyone, and welcome back here on Eiersholt farm. The weather forecast held up. It promised rain. As you can see, we got the wet crop icon on. It was pouring it down just a little while ago while I was feeding the animals early in the morning. So we're not going to be able to harvest yet. We only got one field ready for harvest, and that's the millet. Both corn and potatoes are both still waiting, so it's going to be into late autumn, but it's apparently nice enough to go hot air ballooning. In the last episode I started cutting some grass, and that's why this episode is out a little bit later than it normally would be. I do try and put out one a week, but here we are. That's part of the reason. This silage pit basically got filled completely until I basically could not get anything else into it. So there's about 1.3 to 1.4 million litres of grass in there. We also filled up the grass drying plant down there behind the trees, and then I ended up having to cart the remainder out to the BGA to put it into a silage clamp out there. It doesn't look like an awful lot out there, but there's still about 300,000 litres. Anyway, today we got some jobs to do. So while crops are wet, we got a couple of things to do. I got a T7 parked up over here. We are going to be taking that down to the dealership. The truck has already gone down because we do have the realistic seeder mod added in now. And it's down picking up the seeds that we're going to be needing to start putting in some oilseed radish and some wheat on a couple of fields. So we are going to get a couple of seeders going. But the reason I'm bringing down the two AgriLiner trailers here is that we're going to be trading them up. These have worked very well for a while, but I think it's time that we trade them up to some larger trailers, larger grain trailers. I'm particularly thinking when it comes to harvesting the corn in here. Let's just jump into the cab while we drive. That field is going to be giving a lot of corn, and there's no point in running an auger on that field, but we want some decent grain trailers. So we're going for the next size up in the Kroger line, which will give us about 45,000 litres capacity. Now combined, the two trailers here do have 42,000, so it's not a massive shift up, but it'll make it a little bit easier in terms of manoeuvrability, and also when it potentially comes to harvesting the potatoes, where we do have to run a bit longer up to the field. So I'm going to head down. We'll meet the pickup down there. It's getting seed pallets loaded up. Wheat and oilseed radish. We are also going to be trying to see if we can get some alfalfa seeded in on a field today. But this current version of the map, there's a small conflict, so the alfalfa specific seed are not showing up, so we're going to be using the generic seed that we have on the farm for that particular job. But other than that, I will try and stick to buying the specific seeds. So I used the global company field calculator to estimate the amount of seed that we're going to be needing, and we've been buying pallets in accordingly. And I think if we look in here, yeah, we can see that it's loaded up pretty well, to be honest. It's mainly wheat seeds. The oilseed radish doesn't take that much. But first, I'm also gonna sell these couple of trailers here, and I'm gonna get them changed up. As you can see, we're up to 451,000 euros again. That is because we have sold all of the straw pellets now. That brought in a good deal, and then of course milk is still continuing to be a really, really good earner for us as well. So we'll get these sold, and then we'll see what the situation is. So here we are. First of all, we got the pickup and the flatbed. As we can see now, we got specific seed types So I've got 2 pallets there of oilseed radish, and then everything else on the stacked up on the back here is wheat, because one of our larger fields, field number 15, is going to have wheat on it, and that's obviously going to take a fair amount to get that done. So we're going to be using probably the Massey Ferguson that we normally use in the yard with the front loader. We could use the telehandler as well, to get some seeds ready. We do have 2 seeders, so we'll get the large one loaded up with the wheat, and we'll get the smaller one running on the oilseed radish, and that will work out quite well, I think. And then of course we have this newer and much larger Agroliner trailer. The Agroliner brand has done well for us, so I think we're quite happy to stick with that. We'll get that hooked up and we'll get everything back up to the farm, so we can start loading up some seeders, and we'll keep a continuous eye on the weather. The forecast is basically for more rain. I am hoping that we might today, like basically the rest of mid-autumn here is forecast to be rain. So I'm hoping that we will get a little break today, since it's just overcast now. It's quite cold, so I don't know, it might take a while before crops dry off. But if we do get a chance to break into the millet field, we'll have the T7 here standing ready with a nice new trailer to take the grain. This we have to take it a little bit easy with. There's a lot of seed. Okay, so our seed has arrived. So we're just gonna get a pallet fork onto the Massey here. It's starting to look quite worn. I guess expenses for paint jobs might be coming up soon. Quite a few of these tractors are starting to have a few hours on it. Which actually brings us on to one other thing that we gotta have done today. When we were running silage in between episodes here, the 2 John Deere tractors were really putting in a lot of hours compared to anything else. They were running flat out with the forage wagons, covering all of this stuff. So the 8R is actually sitting up at the BGA right now. Its condition is really low. I don't think anything would happen, but as a matter of precaution, we're going to leave a forage wagon up there, and we're going to put the 8R onto our flatbed truck to bring it back to the workshop here, rather than running any more hours on it, on bringing it back down on the road. I'd kind of taken my eye off the ball there, and hadn't noticed just how low it was getting on its repair condition. So I think that would be a reasonable precaution to take. But we're going to get one of our T7s, the one that we were using for silage compaction. It's still got twin tires on, so that will help take some of the weight on. We'll get that to pull our new vernal and seeder, and that's the larger one that we are going to be putting in some wheat over on field 15. In the meantime, we'll then get the Pronto sorted out with the oilseed radish and start running that on a couple of fields. Now the fields that need oilseed radish are fields 53 and 17. That probably only means something to you if you're familiar with the map, but basically I went through and looked at crop rotations and worked out what we are going to be putting on the different fields in the coming year, which ones are going to get cover crop and which ones are not. But we got our seeder on the ready here, so we'll hop back over in the Massey and get some seed into it. So that's our first pallet in. It was a bit bouncy. I'm not quite sure whether something weird about the physics on these, but that's just over a third, so we can put another pallet and a bit in, and then we'll need to keep the rest ready here on the trailer. And then obviously we also need to add some fertilizer in, I think, on this one. So I don't know if this is part of the mud or the mud on the ground here, but I'm having some real difficulties in getting these pallets lifted with a regular bale. Now it looks like it's finally got it. I've been trying to lift it a number of times where, there we go again. So you see how the recognition of the seed pallet disappears, and it's, yeah, there we go. That's not supposed to happen. So I love the idea of this mod. I really want it to work, but to be honest, if it keeps doing that, then then we can't work with it, frankly. One other thing is when we traded this in, obviously what we went from the horse Certo, which has the same width but no direct drill. What it did, on the other hand, have was a split compartment for fertilizer and for seed. This one does seed only. So we save a pass on ground preparation, but we add a pass on fertilizing instead. So that's worth taking note of if you're thinking of doing something similar. I think it's okay because we have a fairly fast fertilizer spreader and a large self-propelled sprayer. So, but it is a trade-off, and in some ways, after investing in the 12-meter Joker cultivator, maybe it would have been better actually hanging on to the Certo in hindsight. And then we'll get to see this Kvernland seeder in action. So our second T7, we'll be pulling the Horsch Pronto to get some of that oilseed radish out. I'm not quite sure which one of these pallet handlers are now there to use to try and get it loaded up. We'll see how it goes. Slight caveat now is that if we do get dry enough weather to start harvest, normally I would use one of these T7s to run the trailer. With both of the John Deere's very low, we will have to run the 6R at least for a bit. It's still okay. The 8R is, as I mentioned earlier, is up at the BGA, and of course we also have this Arian that can run the trailer. I think it will be a bit overkill to put this Arian on this. I guess we could have put it on the larger one, but we'll get this loaded up with some seed as well. What I might try and do is unfold it, see if it helps to be able to reach in like that. I get them loaded in okay, but now as soon as I lift it, as you can see, I don't know what's going on here. That's, oh god, wow, okay. Right, I'm gonna have to try and get these loaded up. I will do a little bit of experimentation in between episodes. So the first field we want to cover with the T7 here is the field down on the other side of the waterfall and the bridge. We put lime on it just after harvest, and the Hosh Pronto drill here will direct drill on top of that. I guess technically speaking we probably should have cultivated it before we put lime on it straight away. But we should manage. We now got the oilseed radish in, and as well you can't see, but if I try and change the seed type now, nothing happens. It is now locked in for oilseed radish, and for the 3,000 litres we got in here. 3,000 litres should be more than enough for this field, and will reach a good part of the next field as well. But we are here. We'll get the seed on the go, and we'll see how it goes. So we just got the trucks in warming up. One of our forage wagons is in getting serviced. It's got a good look over, and it's basically ready to get pulled out. It went in basically as we were finishing off the 8R. We're pulling a couple of extra loads while the smaller Bergman trailer here got in for its service. But now we're going to be putting on our flatbed trailer, and we're going to be heading up to the BGA to pick up the 8R because it's in a pretty poor state, and I really don't want to run it anymore until we get it into the workshop. So we're kind of, this isn't a role play series, this is a let's play series, but at the same time I kind of feel like giving the 8R a timeout for today to sit in the workshop and get put back together and serviced kind of makes sense from a sort of semi-realistic perspective at least. So we're going to head up there, we're going to pick it up, we're going to leave the other forage wagon sitting there for now. We can come up and pick it up sometime later on when things have calmed down a bit. As I mentioned earlier, it was very cold this morning, so I think we're starting to get to the point where we also need to start putting bedding down for the animals, and that means we're going to start be producing manure again. I am thinking about upscaling our straw blower. There's a mod by Black Sheep Modding that allows you to take, I think it's 4 square bales, you can fold down the sides. So I might be looking at getting that in for the next episode, because obviously the weather is turning at this stage. So there's still investments to be made here on Eiersholt, especially as our holding of pigs has basically quadrupled now. In fact, as you can see, we started with 54 pigs not that long ago. Now we're up to 204. So we are going to get a lot of hungry pigs. Obviously we are going to be selling some over time, but we need to get them up to a decent weight before we start thinking about selling. And of course, as we are on our way up, we are constantly keeping an eye on the weather. The moment we see that wet crop icon disappear, we are getting our CR7 out to harvest some millet. I'm hoping that we can manage to cover off the whole field today while there's some dry weather, because basically the rest of mid-autumn is for pretty wet and miserable conditions. So we have arrived up at the BGA, and the 8R is sitting over here. So we're just gonna get our flatbed trailer unhooked so we can get it up on it. We're okay to run it up. It's not like the engine's not working at all, but I'll just hop in and show you what I mean here. So as we're sitting in the 8R here, as you can see, the repair is basically down on the last dial there. It hasn't gone red, and I haven't really run things in. I think it's not a problem to keep them sort of running a bit beyond that minimum state of repair, but this is one of our largest and most expensive tractors, so we don't really want to take any chances with it. Since we got a flatbed, I think this is the more precautionary approach that we're going to adopt for this. Just get it loaded up, switched off. We've got plenty of space to hook everything on. We wouldn't have room for a trailer here, but that's fine to sit up here for a little while. We'll bring it down to the workshop at some point and give that some attention as well. But we might as well get these jobs done while we're waiting for the weather to clear up a bit, and see if we get a chance to get any of our millet harvested today. So that's our forage wagon away for the winter. Our last cut went swimmingly well. We have massive amounts of silage, we've got massive amounts of straw, we've got massive amounts of hay. So in terms of trying to mix TMR, we are pretty good for the long run here. We'll keep certainly our cows very well stocked up. Next bit is obviously going to be a question about the pig food as well, but here we are. Zerion hooked up to our new AgroLiner trailer. Yeah, they look pretty good together. But we better get this 8R down and get it into the workshop and find out how much the repair bill is going to be. Yeah, we should be okay here. We'll get it unloaded, of course, while they're working on it, but just to see how much the repair bill is going to be, perhaps. So here we are, 43.5 hours operating, pretty poor condition. So we'll get it repaired, and it's going to cost us 3,000 euros, but for a machine this size, that's well worth it. So we're going to leave this stuff sitting here while that's getting sorted out. We are going to go over, we're going to get our Massey to bring the header trailer. It's still a bit of a waiting game. It's still too wet, but it can't be long now. Massey Mass Ferguson hooked up. So all we gotta do now is wait and see if we get a chance to do some harvest. Seeding is underway. We can take a look at that just while I walk down to the office to take a look at a couple of other things. Right, so I've just gotten off the phone with the dealership, and as you can see, we've spent some money. We are down to 200,000 euros, but I think it's a worthwhile investment. With the 8R in the workshop and the 6R generally being quite low on repair state right now, needing some service, I bought another tractor. At the same time, I sold the 2 other Agroliner trailers and picked up another one of the same model. So we're basically going to hop down and inspect our new tractor and trailer, bring that up, and then I just really hope that we will be ready to do some harvest soon. So here we are. We have gone for a Valtra T-Series. This is a 250 horsepower tractor, so it's a little bit less than our T7s, but it's still a perfectly decent horsepower range for most of the jobs around Eiersholt, although of course we are also scaling up machinery, but it is fine to be pulling a trailer like this, especially if we get some harvest. So let's hop in, get the trailer hooked up, and take that back up to the farm as well. So obviously this is a slightly different cab, but we have reversible steering here, and I have been thinking about that it might be necessary at some point if our silage situation keeps filling up like that. We either need to get used to moving things up to the BGA, or we could consider also storing some silage bales, which would require a cutter. We have the liner and the tether and everything like that on the farm already, but it might be handy. So I can see we just got a message from Cosplay as well that it is time to refill some seed on our T7. That'll be the one that's out doing the wheat on field 15. The all-seed radish cover crop on the other one should be holding out fine. So as soon as we get this tractor back up, we'll be taking our pickup out, bringing some seed out to that T7. This feels like a very smooth ride. I like Valtra tractors, and although we're getting quite a collection of different brands on the farm, I have no issue with that at all. In part, it keeps the game a bit interesting, especially if you like a particular brand, you get to see it in the game, but equally I just like to actually be able to try out some of the many different both mods and in-game tractors there are that provides such great experience in this game. I have a feeling this machine is gonna catch up on ours fairly quickly. It's probably gonna be doing quite a lot of the carting jobs. When we start doing potato harvest, it's definitely going to be running one of these trailers to and from the farm with loads. That is assuming that our new trailers here are not too high-sided for a potato harvester. That might be the only downside, which we will find out. It won't be this episode because potatoes are not ready yet. I have been toying with the idea there is another potato field just north of it that is ready to harvest, and we'll see how we get on. But given that mid-autumn is looking like a very wet period, I'm gonna hold off a little bit and see first of all if we get a chance to harvest the millet. But we're back in Eiersholt, and as much as I would like to sit in our shiny new tractor here, it is time to hop over into our slightly mucky pickup truck and bring some wheat seed out to the seeder so we can keep on going, getting that winter wheat in the ground. So unfortunately my recording of the next bit failed, but it wasn't a great loss because shortly after refilling the seeder, the rain basically came on, and given the crops were still wet, unfortunately that means there was no harvest in this episode, which was what we'd been hoping for. So in spite of the rather abrupt ending to things here, we got some testing done of the realistic seeder. It's a very good mod. There's just a little bit to work out with how to handle the pallets, but it's not a big issue. So we're going to end the episode here and hopefully get back in the next one where we can actually get on with that harvest if we get a break from the rain. But for now, thank you very much for watching from Overcoat Gaming, and see you again soon.